The following program is sponsored. The opinions and statements made by the hosts and guests do not necessarily reflect the views of News Talk 600 and 100.3 WBOB or its parent company, the Chesapeake Portsmouth Broadcasting Corporation.
News Talk 600 and FM 100.3 WBOB is proud to present Tula's Tips for Caregivers. Help is on the air with Tula Wooten, your source to go for resources and information to help you in this rewarding but sometimes challenging role. Tula's Tips for Caregivers is brought to you by Agewell Institute at Baptist Health, by Elmcroft Assisted Living and Memory Care, by Apex Home Health Care, and by Bartram Lakes Brooks Assisted Living. To participate in today's show, call 904-222-TALK. That's 904-222-8255. Now here's Tula.
Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Tula's Tips for Caregivers. I am so delighted to be back again with you this Saturday. I missed you all last Saturday as I was leading a caregiver conference on the north side of Jacksonville, but I know that the show that I had, Advocacy Heals You, touched a lot of lives because many of you have already gotten back to me about that, so thank you for listening. Today, I'm really happy to be back again live. For those of you who might be listening for the very first time, my name is Tula Wooten, and I have actually a background in medical social work here in Northeast Florida. I started off way back when, in 1979, right out of college as a social worker caring for frail elders and their families from a hospital setting. I've worked in both home health, long-term care, hospitals, and community hospice, where I am currently employed. In that role, I created the Caregiver Coalition of Northeast Florida, and we host many, many workshops every year for caregivers on a lot of other events. And then in 2009, I started this radio show to really be a source of one-stop shopping, if you will, for caregivers in Northeast Florida and now anywhere, as I have an iHeart station, for people to turn to ask for resources to assist them, and maybe even provide a little encouragement and inspiration, because it can be a challenging role. There are over 44 million unpaid caregivers in the United States caring for a frail elder, as I prefer the term to senior, prefer elder. I think it gives them more respect. And, you know, when you're caring for a loved one, there are so many challenges that can come your way that it's very easy to overlook and neglect your own physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being. And then as you're caring for your loved one and you see your loved one decline, there are lots of things that you go through, lots of emotions. And then you find yourself in need of perhaps some assistance. So that's where my guest today is going to help us. I have brought with me truly a longtime friend and colleague. I've known Colleen Diedenbach for at least 20 years here in Northeast Florida.
Since 1989.
Wow, that goes way back. Since she remembers when we met, she's got such a better memory than I do. Again, her name is Colleen Diedenbach. She and I met first at a long-term care facility that she was at, if I'm remembering correct, years ago in 1989. And I'll let her tell you a little bit about her career since then. But she now has her own company called Medicaid Assist Services of Northeast Florida, which I have recently been privileged to ask her to help us with. And so, Colleen, welcome to the show, first of all.
Thank you.
I'm really glad you're here today.
Thank you for the honor.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about your background, where you've most recently worked and things you've done in that role before starting your own business.
Well, I graduated college in 87, and I met you in 1989 at one of the first nursing homes I worked at, and you were with your home health care company then. So I stayed in long-term care all the way through 2005. I was here in Jacksonville up 87 to 95, moved out to California in 95, stayed out there till 98, came back because I missed Florida and the beach. Yay. And then continued with long-term care, but in 2005 left long-term care and then ended up with hospice in 2006. So I worked for community hospice from 2006 to 2015. And then I left in June and started my own company in October.
So what was your role at community hospice?
I started off as one of the float social workers. And for 2006 to 2007, I was floating all over the 5 counties, helping out, filling in for the social workers. And then, because I'm also a social worker, And then 2007 to 2008, I was on 2 of the Rainbow teams. Back then, they were called Rainbow teams. And then in 2008, our census had gone up and Medicaid was increasing in need. So myself and another lady were pulled off of the teams and helped out with the Medicaid. And so I worked the Medicaid applications from 2008 all the way through 2015.
Which is what we're going to talk about today, because that can be such an overwhelming thing to do, to apply for long-term care or community-based Medicaid. Just thinking about it actually stresses me out, and I've just recently done it. And it does most people. I remember, working in the social work role, kind of handing people the list of documents that you've got to go get, telling them where to go to apply, and thinking, oh my goodness, I'm so glad I don't have to do that. And as you very well know, we did do that last year. It can be a very, very challenging role. So we're going to talk about applying for long-term Medicaid today, which is a federal state program, for those of you who don't know, that helps pay for some services in the home, and Medicaid also covers nursing home care. Mm-hmm. Colleen, let's just start with the basics, because a lot of people truly don't know, even in this day and age, the difference between Medicare and Medicaid.
Okay. Remember that Medicare comes out of your Social Security administration. Basically, if you've been a working adult all your life, you have always been paying in with each paycheck a Medicare portion towards what you can use later. All your life, you've paid into the system.
Right.
So Medicare is federally funded money that's been taken out of your paycheck and you've paid for it. Medicare covers skilled care services, short-term skilled care services. Medicare is used for hospitalization, doctors coverage, and certain durable medical equipment pieces. It is hospitalization or long-term care placement for rehab only.
Right.
And when I first started in 89, Medicare covered quite a bit of service. But when all the diagnostic-related guidelines started in the 1990s with the insurance companies, Social Security took notice and said, hey, maybe we don't need to be doing as much as we've been doing. Let's do like the insurances. Yeah. So it started to scale back. So what you used to know about Medicare is not the same as what's current day. Think short-term coverage, skilled care only, and that means the doctors and the nurses and the therapists who have they're licensed professionals to provide care, and it's based upon the charting that they do. So they have to show that you are in skilled need.
Right. I had an experience just last year again with my own mother who was hospitalized. And I thought, okay, she's been here her 3 days. She's going to qualify to get coverage, at least for a while, under Medicare in a skilled nursing facility. But not, actually, she was there 8 days. But out of the 8 days, only one qualified as a skilled day. Right. That has changed since the days I was working in the hospital systems. Yes. And I went through the appeal process and lost. So we weren't able to place her in under Medicare. It is what I'm trying to tell my audience is it's much harder to get Medicare coverage in a skilled nursing facility than you might think. The government is so cracking down on that.
Yes. It's definitely based upon the documentation of during the admission process. What are the doctors and the nurses charting? What is your skilled care need?
Right. It's very, very challenging. And it's a huge change. So what we're saying is if you've got a loved one who's been in the hospital, you need to be talking to the social worker in that hospital. And if you cannot take them home and you think they need some care in a skilled nursing facility, again, be talking to that social worker about how they may qualify, and may being the key word, for any Medicare coverage in a skilled nursing facility. We're going to talk a little bit more about this and about Medicaid coverage. That's what we're here to talk about today in just a few minutes. You're listening to Tula's Tips for Caregivers on AM 600 WBOB. Please stay tuned to these sponsor breaks, and we'll be right back. Hi, this is Tula with Tula's Tips for Caregivers, and I'm here today to personally endorse Apex Home Healthcare Services. They've been caring for my own parents for about 3 months, so yes, this is a personal endorsement. Did you know that they have a behavioral health program? If your loved one has any form of dementia, like Alzheimer's, they can send their behavioral health nurse to come and help you cope. They can help with communication skills. They can help manage the medication. They can help with diet, all kinds of coping skills. I didn't know this myself, but Medicare does cover the cost of a behavioral health nurse to come out and help you care for your loved one with any form of dementia. When you've got this nurse coming, you also qualify for a certified nursing assistant to come and help bathe, dress, and attend to the other activities of daily living for your loved one. If you're not using Apex Home Healthcare yet, you need to be. Please tune into my show and learn more about Apex Home Care or call them at 904-425-4202. Hi, this is Tula, and I'm here to talk to you about Baptist's new Age Well Institute. Are you caring for a loved one who's 65 or older? Are you a boomer like myself who's caring for a parent? And perhaps your parent has been experiencing some decline in their overall health. Let me highly recommend to you the Baptist Age Well Institute. They have the only real geriatrician here in Northeast Florida who is able to look at the whole person. Their comprehensive approach includes a nurse, a doctor, a social worker, a pharmacist, a dietitian. They have their own physical therapy there. They can work with folks with memory disorders. My goal is to help you, the caregiver, find an organization that can care for your loved one who's 65 or older. I take my own parents there, and I highly recommend the Age Well Institute at Baptist. Please give them a call at 904-202-4243. Again, that's 904-202-4243. You'll be so glad you did.
Have you read the new book, Love Stories and Timeless Tips yet? It's by our own Tula Wooten with Tula's Tips for Caregivers. Tula is a caregiver too, as well as an expert on caregiving. You can get it in paperback or on Kindle at Amazon.com. The book is filled with touching stories of caregivers taking care of their loved ones. Each chapter has helpful ideas that we all can use. I love that Tula included a Tula's tip with each story. Her message to caregivers is clear. Take care of yourself so that you can take care of your loved one. This is a beautiful book for all caregivers to read, whether you're a part-time, full-time, or long-distance caregiver, or someone receiving care. You should get the book today. Just go to Amazon.com. Search for Love Stories and Timeless Tips by Tula Wooten.
George, I got the job. Thanks, I'm so excited. They hired me on the spot right after the interview. It was that book I bought from Amazon, From the Interview to the Paycheck by Fred Haley. The book really taught me something. It helped me to think about what the boss wants. Then it helped me with answers that show that I can do the job. I can tell they were impressed when I introduced myself. I just followed the simple outline from the Interview to the Paycheck book, and I know I won the job with my first 90 days plan the book recommended. They said no one else had ever been so prepared. You should get the book. It's on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle. It's worth it if you want to get hired. Just search for From the Interview to the Paycheck by Fred Haley. Do it now.
And now, let's return to Tula's Tips for Caregivers, brought to you in part by Age Well Institute at Baptist Health, by Elmcroft Assisted Living and Memory Care, by Apex Home Healthcare, and by Bartram Lakes Brooks Assisted Living. To participate in today's show, call 904-222-TALK. That's 904-222-8255. Once again, here's Tula.
Well, welcome back, everyone. If you've just joined me, my guest today is Colleen Diedenbach, longtime friend and colleague, and now owner of her own business called Medicaid Assist Services of Northeast Florida. And what she does is help people who are applying for long-term care Medicaid for their loved one do just that. Go through the process, collect all the documents. She understands the criteria backwards and forwards and sideways. She's been doing it for so many years, and she truly is an expert at it. And I will go as far as to let my listening audience know I've given her name to a couple of good friends in the community, and they continue to call me and just thank me because it is such an overwhelming process to apply. We're going to touch on that, Colleen. Why do you think they make it so hard?
I've asked that question since 2008. Not sure why. There's a variety of different reasons, though. They really do need to verify that you're in need of Medicaid assistance. It's supposed to be for those who are truly in financial need. And so you just have to go through the steps to make sure you qualify.
All right. Well, let's start talking about some of those qualifying factors. I'd also like to debunk some of the myths out there, because a lot of people have these misconceptions that if I apply for Florida State Nursing Home Medicaid or Home and Community-Based Medicaid, they're going to take my house. All kinds of things like that we know are myths. But we'll start with what some of the basic requirements are. Let's start with monthly income and assets.
Okay. Remember that Medicaid is based on financial need. So for the current year, it is actually the same amount as last year because there was no cost of living increase. So for the current year, the qualifying gross level of income, that means before any deductions, the applicant's income must only be $2,199 per month. That's $2,199 per month before any deductions. That's your gross combined total of income.
Okay, so that's the gross for the person who needs let's talk about long-term care Medicaid, nursing home Medicaid, for the person who needs placement, not the community partner, not his spouse, but
right. You're looking at just the applicant when you're doing the Medicaid app. Single or married, you're looking at the applicant. But when you do get into the nursing home, DCF does need to know what is the income of the community spouse for the long-term care Medicaid app, because they need to make sure that spouse is taken care of as well.
Which is good, because the spouse is typically still in their own home, but it's good that they're concerned about their care as well. Okay, so the monthly income is $2,199. Let's talk about assets.
Okay. Asset level has not changed since 2008. For the applicant, single or married, in that person's name, total combined asset cannot be greater than $2,000 liquid asset. There are excluded assets. So like you just said, if a person owns a home and it is their homestead property, they have that designation, then that is not counted up to $500,000.
Which is a pretty decent house that you can have.
Yes.
And it's not counted. I hope everyone is listening to that.
They do not have to give away their home. They do not have to sell their home. They are allowed to keep their home.
Right.
Because if there's any reason for them to leave the nursing home and be able to go back home with home care or such, then that home is available to them. And then also if they have a spouse, the spouse has somewhere to live. Right.
Actually, I heard an elder law attorney who has also helped us, Rebecca Berg, say last Saturday, as long as the person in the nursing home has the intent to go back home at any point in time, even if we know it's totally unrealistic and they've got dementia, but they're walking around saying, I want to go home. I'm getting out of here. I'm going home. That's intent to go home. And so therefore they can't take the house.
I've been in long-term care since 1989, and I've seen a lot of people be able to return home because the will to live for some people is very strong. And if they have a determination to get back home, they can get back home. I've seen it.
Yeah, it's wonderful too when you see that happening. So we know that, again, for those of you who are listening and writing this down, because this is important information, I hope many of you are, the income limit is $2,199 a month, and that asset limit is still $2,000
for the applicant.
Liquid. For the applicant, and that's liquid assets. And, you know, I did start off as a social worker back in 1979 at one of our local hospitals. That was the asset limit then.
Yes.
So the asset limit has not gone up in over 35 years. You know, go figure. I don't understand that really, but that's not mine to decide. So let's talk about what other liquid assets Medicaid might look at.
Okay, liquid assets is what can be cashed in. So they're looking at checking accounts, savings accounts, life insurance, if it has a cash value, property, second properties and such.
Second properties, right.
Vehicles, IRAs, stocks, bonds, annuities, funeral plans, and I think that's it at the moment. But with funeral plans or cremation plans, you really want to make them irrevocable.
Right.
Because when you're applying for Medicaid, that becomes an excluded asset. Irrevocable means you won't change your mind, you won't cash it back in. When you're sitting down with a funeral home or cremation agency, you're saying to them what you want, you choose out what you want, you sign a contract, and then you sign a form called an irrevocable assignment of benefits. That sets everything pretty much in stone, and then the value becomes excluded.
Right.
Let's be honest, the state doesn't have the ability to pay for anybody's funeral plans, doesn't really have the funds to pay for cremation plans, and it's something we should take care of for ourselves.
Right.
So it is an excluded asset.
It's wise thinking to go ahead and get that taken care of for yourself, like you just said, and for your loved one. It's wise financially to do it before the need. For a number of reasons. You want to purchase this when you're not grieving.
That's it, right there.
And as we went through the Medicaid process, and I'm being, again, very transparent here today, my parents hadn't done that. And so I was advised, and I helped my father go and purchase his plans. And we did purchase it with the irrevocable assignment of benefits. That's not going to change.
Nope.
We're not going to change our minds. We're not going to cash that in. It's going to be needed. So there you have it. And that's something that Medicaid will not count because, again, everybody's going to need that.
Yes.
At some point in time. So it's such good advice. If you're listening today and you haven't bought your own funeral or cremation plan, unless you know something I don't know, the inevitable is going to happen to all of us.
Yes.
So I would say it's a gift of love for your family members to go ahead and get that taken care of so they don't have to do it when they're grieving your loss. And then it's also the wisest financial thing you can do. And you may need some guidance, and there are people who can help guide you through that.
Right. It also gives you the ability to say what you want for the process, funeral or cremation. What do I want around that funeral? What do I want around that cremation? It takes a lot of stress off the family because then they know what you want, and then they can just call the funeral home or cremation agency and say, now is the time, let's put this into motion. So that way, when that person dies, the family's not stressing and going, I don't know what mom wants. I don't know what dad wants. Right. It really, truly helps. I've seen it over the years. It takes so much stress off of everybody. It's a hard subject to think about for some people. They don't want to face it, but it really does take the stress off of people. Yeah,
we do, unfortunately, live in a death-denying society. Again, I still work at Community Hospice. You've worked there. We both know from our experience through the years that it's something that people just don't want to talk about in our world. But as we all mature and we plan for other things like our kids' education and our retirement, this is a phase of life too, the ending part, that we have to plan for in advance and, again, make it easier for everyone involved.
Yes.
I bought my own. I don't want my son, when I'm gone, I don't want him having to deal with that. You know, I'd want him to be able to do the things he needs to do to grieve without having to think about assets and plans and that sort of thing. Take the stress off. So it's a very, very important thing to get out of the way. You know, you've touched on a couple of other things that I want to talk about a little bit more, because you mentioned vehicles as something that could be liquidated, but doesn't the state allow you to have a vehicle? Go
yes,
ahead.
The applicant is allowed to have one vehicle in their name for personal transport. Hopefully it's a good working vehicle so that they can use it. But yes, you can have one vehicle in their name. If they're a married applicant, the spouse can also have a vehicle in their name.
Okay.
And what the state is looking for is a car that's usually 7 years or younger for information. If you have a car that's 7 years or older, it's not necessarily counted at times.
Okay, that's good to know. I wanted to clarify that because everybody needs a car.
Yes.
All right, we're going to talk some more about the criteria for long-term care Medicaid when we get back. You're listening to Tula's Tips for Caregivers on AM 600 WBOB. We'll be right back.
and weather. Updated on the stories that matter. We've got you covered. AM 600 and FM 100.3 WBOB Jacksonville.
With SRN News, I'm Bob Agnew in Washington. The funeral for Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia is underway at the nation's largest Roman Catholic church. One of Scalia's 9 children, the Reverend Paul Scalia, is leading the Mass at the Basilica of the National Shrine of the Immaculate Conception. It holds about 3,500 people. The Supreme Court says more than 6,000 people paid a visit yesterday to the Supreme Court to view Scalia's casket in the Great Hall. A court spokeswoman says everybody who was in line as of 9 p.m. was allowed into the building. A coroner says a 44-year-old Mississippi Bureau of Narcotics agent is dead. It happened after a standoff in northeastern Mississippi ended in gunfire. 3 other officers are in the hospital with gunshot wounds. Authorities say the man who fired the shots also died. The shooting erupted early today after an hours-long standoff. More details at srnnews.com.
1 in 5 Americans will be diagnosed with skin cancer in their lifetime. If skin cancer is detected early enough, it can be treated with a high degree of success. Advantage Dermatology is here to help. Their board-certified physicians and physician's assistants specialize in skin evaluation, cutaneous oncology, and Mohs micrographic and reconstructive surgery, which is performed in their dedicated surgical suites. Remember, the best offense is a good defense. Advantage Dermatology. Call 904-387-4991. Online at AdvantageDerm.com.
My name is Leroy, and I love the City Rescue Mission's Life Builders program. My journey began in Charlotte. I had completed my 7th recovery program, but could never find a job and kept falling back into my old ways. I felt that God was telling me to go to Florida. When I arrived in Jacksonville, I went to the City Rescue Mission for a meal and shelter. I realized that I still needed help with my addiction, so I entered the Life Builders program. The City Rescue Mission offers education, life skills, workforce development training, and helped me find a job. The City Rescue Mission put me on the road to long-term recovery.
Hi, I'm Penny Kiewit, Executive Director for the City Rescue Mission. Would you consider helping us make a difference as we feed the hungry, shelter the homeless, and transform lives? Visit us at crmjax.org. That's crmjax.org to learn more or to make a donation to help others like Leroy, who are hungry, homeless, and addicted.
Have you heard? Proactive Plus is faster and better than ever. Stay tuned for a $1 million bottle giveaway, and you'll also receive free shipping. Do you have troubled skin? Acne? Well, we have great news. With Proactive Plus, your acne can heal, and you can help prevent new breakouts from happening. Don't miss this limited time offer. Give us a call, because we're going to let 1 million people try Proactive Plus risk-free and get 2 free gifts, and also receive free shipping when you call right now. You heard it. This offer won't last long. So call Proactive Plus now, and you'll receive a 60-day risk-free trial of Proactive Plus, 2 free extras, and free shipping. This is our exclusive radio offer, never on TV. Get your risk-free 60-day trial of Proactive Plus with free shipping. That's right, free shipping. Don't wait.
800-738-1912. 800-738-1912. 800-738-1912. That's 800-738-1912.
WBOB traffic and weather.
Well, no crashes to report, but the weather is nice. Looking for sunny skies today. And a high about 74. A little bit of fog overnight lasting into the morning hours. Otherwise, partly cloudy, low of 55. For Sunday, mostly sunny, high 76. And Sunday night, mostly cloudy, low of 55. For Monday, partly sunny, high 73. It's up to 69 degrees at News Talk at AM 600. FM 100.3 WBOB.
And now, let's return to Tula's Tips for Caregivers, brought to you in part by Age Well Institute at Baptist Health, by Elmcroft Assisted Living and Memory Care, by Apex Home Health Care, and by Bartram Lakes Brooks Assisted Living. To participate in today's show, call 904-222-TALK. That's 904-222-8255. Once again, here's Tula.
Welcome back, everybody. Today, my guest is Colleen Diedenbach. She has her own company called Medicaid Assist Services of Northeast Florida, and she helps people apply for Florida State nursing home and community-based services. Medicaid. And I'm going to ask you, Colleen, because we did cover in depth what Medicare is. For those people who don't really understand what Medicaid is, would you give just a brief overview?
Remember that Medicaid is for those who are in financial need. So you need to be in the age bracket of 65 or above, or you would need to be disabled and considered disabled through the Social Security Administration. There are medical needs as well as financial need for Medicaid, because Medicaid is coverage for healthcare needs. Medicaid is federal funding, but it's administered through the state. So each state actually has their own set of guidelines. They're close, but in some respects different with different states, because I've talked with Alabama folks and Georgia folks, and there are different qualifications for those states from Florida. But Florida has certain rules and regulations regarding what you're eligible for. Medicaid is normally for long-term care services, care in the home, or care in the community. Some assisted living facilities in Jacksonville are also Medicaid certified, and so can cover folks with that. But it's for those who really need the extra financial assistance. Community Medicaid is either community level, or it's a program called Medically Needy Share of Cost, where you have to pay a certain amount before Medicaid provides services. There's also a Medicaid waiver program. That is designed to help keep the elders in the community as long as possible, because home is usually the best setting as long as they're safe. The biggest thing about home care is you've got to be safe in that environment. Mm-hmm. So the Medicaid waiver program was designed to help keep them in their home as long as possible, as long as they're safe. And so there's certain provisions with the waiver program.
And that waiver program does cover some help in the home.
Yes, it does.
Tell me a little bit about what it may cover.
Well, if you're in need of assisted activities of daily living care, or you're in need of someone to transport you, or medication, things like that, it's the care for the person within the home.
Right. And Medicaid will pick up that cost. And we have several organizations here in Jacksonville that are Medicaid providers and can provide that care.
Right. And the Medicaid waiver program is generally governed by the Elder Source agency in town, a very good agency to talk to. There's also Aging True in Jacksonville, who has helped under the Medicaid program. It's now managed care as of 2013. So there were originally 4 agencies in this district that we live in Duval County. And those companies are now down to 3 from what I saw in a recent packet that was sent for one of the folks I'm helping with the Medicaid app on. There's United Healthcare, there's Sunshine State, and I'm blanking out on the third one. I apologize at the moment.
Is it American Elder Care?
No, it wasn't, actually. Okay. It was a different one.
That's okay. We don't have to know it all.
Okay, thank you.
None of us can know it all. And it does change. That's just the interesting.
Yes.
I bet it's WellCare. That's it.
I'm not sure.
It's a Medicaid managed care program, so it must be
right.
The last one.
I was mainly looking at the first 2 that was listed. Sorry.
Yeah, but the point of all this is, if you're going to apply for Medicaid, do you have to start with Elder Source?
That is for the waiver program.
That's for the waiver program.
No.
Okay.
If you want to apply for Medicaid, you basically just, you can go online to the myfloridafamilies.com/accessflorida. That is the website for applying, and then it'll give you information regarding Medicaid.
Okay, for those people who don't want to go online, who actually want to talk to a person, I know a lot of those kinds of folks, including my dad. How can they reach you?
My phone number is 904-724-6050. Again, 904-724-6050. Or you can also email me. It's my last name, first initial, at bellsouth.net.
And that's Diedenbach, DEDENBACHC, at bellsouth.net. Colleen, tell me again the difference between Medicaid waiver, nursing home Medicaid, and home and community-based Medicaid. It's confusing to me, and I work in the industry.
Remember that the waiver is for those who are trying to stay at home as long as possible. So that waiver program is designed to help provide services that will meet them at their needs. everybody has different needs, and so the waiver covers certain things for certain people. So just think with the waiver program, what you're trying to do is waive away long-term care as long as possible. That might be a way to help remember it.
But all the financial requirements are the same.
Yes.
Asset limits, everything.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. In the community, you are just living in the community. You might be very, very low in funds. And because there is a provision, there are some folks who make almost no income at all, but they have some. So the only time that you don't have that $2,000 asset limit is if you have an income that's $871 or less per month, then you can have an asset level as high as $5,000. But you have to have an income only under $871. Yeah. So it's very limited.
Very limited.
Community Medicaid covers that, exactly that. It's coverage for the community, for the doctors, for medicines, for services and care. Medically needy share of costs means that you're over the basic limit of community Medicaid. You have a little bit more income, but you are needing to pay a share of cost first. And that can be quite high for some folks. When they look at that share of cost, they go, well, I don't have anything else left to live on. But that is the way the state decides you need to pay for a certain amount for medical needs before they will provide service. It's just their decision. When you're in the nursing home, there are so many folks that have planned well for retirement, but sadly not enough for retirement.
Right.
And so, especially like if you're a husband and wife, and the wife needs to go to the nursing home, you still need to take care of the husband in the community. You cannot impoverish them.
Right.
That did happen in the past, and so that's why rules have changed with Medicaid. Before, everyone, husband and wife, used to have to be down very limited, but that never left enough money for the person in the community.
Right.
So now that's why the state makes the provision for the spousal, what's called spousal diversion if needed. For the applicant, the state also needs you to pay something. So that's why they look at income and assets. They can't foot the whole bill for everybody. There's no way the state could make it.
Sure.
So what you need to do is look at what you have for income and assets and then where you fit in. And DCF tries to do what they can to help out.
I understand that. It is a very complex thing. I do know that, let's get back to the person who is applying for nursing home Medicaid. Say it's a husband applying for his wife, but the husband has full intentions of staying in his own home. There is an amount in assets that husband is allowed to have because, as you said, they no longer impoverish the community spouse, as they're called. In this case, the husband who would be staying home. What is that asset limit?
For a married applicant, that is the third qualifier. After the applicant has income and assets, the spouse must not have an asset level over $119,220. So that's the third qualifier. Now, sometimes there are legal ways to protect assets. So I strongly encourage folks that you don't necessarily have to spend everything down. There are ways to legally take care of the applicant and the spouse. I tend to call them patient first. Sorry, it's applicant. But there are great elder care attorneys in our community.
Right, there sure are.
There are some really fantastic elder care attorneys who know the ins and outs of the Medicaid guidelines and the rules, and I encourage you to use them. One of the things that's also needs to be considered is when you need to talk to an elder care attorney and they need to help you set up durable power of attorneys or such like that, or they need to help you with what's called a qualified income trust, those are allowed deductions. And so you need an itemized statement from the attorney with the attorney's name, address, and phone number on it and what they did for you. But that's an allowed spend down if you need to do spend downs.
Right. And there are certain things you can do to spend down your assets that won't disqualify you.
Right.
I've learned that from my days with you and from an elder law attorney in town who's taught me a lot, Rebecca Berg. She's actually helped us too. You can actually do home improvements. And that won't count against you. And so many of our frail elders have let their houses go for a long time. So home improvements can be done, as well as purchase some of the things we've talked about today, like funeral plans and other things. There are things you can do and still not disqualify yourself. We're going to wrap up this discussion when we come back. We're talking about Medicaid eligibility in the state of Florida for long-term care and community-based Medicaid. This is Tula's Tips for Caregivers on AM 600 WBOB. We'll be right back.
George, I got the job. Thanks, I'm so excited. They hired me on the spot right after the interview. It was that book I bought from Amazon, From the Interview to the Paycheck by Fred Haley. The book really taught me something. It helped me to think about what the boss wants. Then it helped me with answers that show that I can do the job. I can tell they were impressed when I introduced myself. I just followed the simple outline from the Interview to the Paycheck book, and I know I won the job with my first 90 days plan the book recommended. They said no one else had ever been so prepared. You should get the book. It's on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle. It's worth it if you want to get hired. Just search for From the Interview to the Paycheck by Fred Haley. Do it now.
Have you read the new book, Love Stories and Timeless Tips yet? It's by our own Tula Wooten with Tula's Tips for Caregivers. Tula is a caregiver too, as well as an expert on caregiving. You can get it in paperback or on Kindle at Amazon.com. The book is filled with touching stories of caregivers taking care of their loved ones. Each chapter has helpful ideas that we all can use. I love that Tula included a Tula's tip with each story. Her message to caregivers is clear. Take care of yourself so that you can take care of your loved one. This is a beautiful book for all caregivers to read, whether you're a part-time, full-time, or long-distance caregiver, or someone receiving care. You should get the book today. Just go to Amazon.com. Search for Love Stories and Timeless Tips by Tula Wooten.
Hi, everyone. This is Tula again, and I'm here to tell you about the Agewell Institute at Baptist Health. They're located in the San Marco area. I've been taking my own parents there for about 2 years now. Dr. Lance, the geriatrician on staff, has done remarkable things for both my parents and for me, the caregiver. They have great information, advice, and resources to help me. Dr. Lance and her team of social workers, dietitians, nurses, therapists, and the pharmacist have been so instrumental in helping me keep my own parents independent and living in their own home where they want to be. If you're looking for someone to either supplement the care that your primary physician is giving to your loved one who's 65 or older, or to perhaps become their primary care physician, I really encourage you to call the Agewell Institute at Baptist. Their number is 904-202-4243. Again, that's 904-202-4243. Hi, this is Tula. If the loved one that you're caring for has recently experienced any falls or had medication changes, maybe they've been hospitalized in the last 3 to 6 months, some new medical condition that's been diagnosed by the doctor, or just an overall change in their healthcare status, or difficulty in walking or bathing or eating, it's time to call Apex Home Healthcare Services. They can help you with all of the above. The number is 904-425-4202. That's 904-425-4202.
Have you noticed that mom or dad seems to be slipping a bit? Forgetting appointments, skipping meals, repeating stories? You know they're not ready for a nursing home, yet they could benefit from some kind of help. Brooks Rehabilitation invites you to redefine assisted living at Bartram Lakes. Bartram Lakes Assisted Living offers care and services for adults who value choice and independence, yet benefit from 24/7 support. Our residents embrace life, develop friendships, and live life to its fullest. Our residents' families benefit from having peace of mind, knowing that Brooks Rehabilitation, a trusted name in Jacksonville healthcare for 40 years, is overseeing their loved ones' care. Come and visit Bartram Lakes Assisted Living. To schedule a tour, call 904-528-3515. That's 904-528-3515. Or visit www.bartramlakes.org.
And now, let's return to Tula's Tips for Caregivers. Brought to you in part by Agewell Institute at Baptist Health, by Elmcroft Assisted Living and Memory Care, by Apex Home Healthcare, and by Bartram Lakes Brooks Assisted Living. To participate in today's show, call 904-222-TALK. That's 904-222-8255. Once again, here's Tula.
Welcome back, everyone. We just have a few minutes left to cover some really important information today on qualifications for state Medicaid. Before I take a caller, and Mark, I know you're holding on line one. Please continue to hold for just a second. We need to talk about something we haven't talked about yet, and that's the look-back period.
Right. With Medicaid, when you start to make the decision that you need Medicaid, the state, DCF, Department of Children and Families, who run the Medicaid, will do a 5-year window look-back. That is important because at times folks have sold stuff, traded stuff, or given away stuff.
Right.
That's technically a no-no. When you have transferred assets when you're not supposed to, you have devalued what you had available. So at times folks have needed to give property or money or things back in order to help that person be qualified. There is a 5-year window look back because unfortunately at times certain people have given certain things away when they shouldn't have. The only allowed transfer is between a husband and a wife, because especially if they're still married, that spouse needs to live in the community so the applicant can provide and transfer to the spouse. Or if there's an adult disabled child before the age of 21, they were diagnosed disabled, then that child needs to be taken care of as well. So that is a provision. I usually encourage you to talk to attorneys about how all of that can be done. But you should not be giving away any assets or giving things away. Now, there are certain other things to talk about, though, regarding giving away. And that's, again, where I really and strongly encourage you to talk to an elder care attorney on what is allowed and what is not allowed regarding transfers and things like that. Because some folks have given stuff away 4 or 5 years ago that never thinking they were going to need Medicaid.
Right.
And so there may be loopholes or things around the Medicaid guidelines that the attorneys can help you know what's yes and no.
So the bottom line of this, or the moral of this story is, you're going to continue to age just like everybody else. And if you think there's a possibility that you may need nursing home Medicaid, or your spouse may in the future, you may want to start talking to an elder law attorney now about any assets.
Absolutely.
You know, grandparents like to give $10,000 gifts to their grandkids to go to college, that sort of thing. But if they've done that sort of thing and then 3 years later they apply for Medicaid, they may be in trouble.
Right. That's where you really need to talk to an elder care attorney.
Right. So, again, the importance of planning ahead cannot be overstated here.
Yes.
We do have a caller on line one. Mark, welcome to Tula's Tips for Caregivers.
Thank you, Tula, and thank you, Colleen. I had a question. Can you mix and match funding? In other words, my father is in a place right now. He receives VA funds to help pay for his costs. Can he also get Medicaid to help pay for it?
If his VA funding is under the $21.99 gross per month, and he needs Medicaid to also back up the VA, yes.
Oh, okay.
Now, is he in a VA nursing home or anything? There might be differences with that.
No, he's in an assisted living facility.
Mm-hmm.
That takes VA aid and attendance as a payment method.
Right. VA will normally always be billed first, but if there is cost after the VA and he's qualified to be Medicaid after the VA, then yes. If he's qualified and can get approved for Medicaid as a backup to the VA, yes. Normally with most VA folks, their services are through the VA administration, so that's usually covered. But not always. Over the years, I've had various VA people and Medicaid.
Yeah. His VA covers about half of what the facility is, costs are. Okay. Well, that's good to know. Another question, a different topic. Tula mentioned that you helped her collect a lot of documents and all. General question, what is the documentation that is hardest for you to find that people usually don't keep? Follow what I'm asking?
Oh, in this day and age, because everyone's concerned about identity theft, there are several different pieces. When you need a Medicaid application, you need to identify who you are, what your income is, what your assets are, and what your expenses are. The hardest part most of the time is people have thrown away their ID information, or they've hidden it, or they've thrown away their bank information. And so then they don't have the bank statements to provide to DCF for review. So if you need and you're concerned about identity theft, just have a safe and secure place that you can have stuff in, so that way when you need it.
What sort of identity information are you suggesting?
Well, we need to have a photo ID of you. It doesn't always have to be a current ID. I've been able to use expired driver's license because a lot of elders don't drive anymore.
Passports.
Right, passports. Even expired passports. It's a government-issued ID. And especially with passports, it covers both the picture ID and the proof that you're an American citizen. You do need a copy of your Social Security card, especially for women if they're using their husband's Medicare number, because that's the husband's number, not her number. So we need to show what is your Social Security number. And then if you don't have a passport, you do need a birth certificate or proof that you were born in the United States, because that's one of the first qualifiers for Medicaid as well, is you're a U.S. citizen and you're a Florida resident.
And I imagine birth certificates one of the harder things to find sometimes.
Yeah. Yes, and marriage certificates as well. So,
marriage, yeah, true.
So especially if you're a married applicant, you're going to need to show that you are married to this person, and so you need the documentation.
I'm just going to throw out a personal story here again, folks. As I mentioned, Colleen did help us. She came into my father's house with this page-long list of documents, literally page-long, of things that needed to be found. And my father was saying, we don't have that stuff anymore. I don't have a marriage license. Who knows where that is? And under 2 hours, she had everything. It would have taken me months to do that, if I could even work up the gumption to do it.
I have to brag on Tula's dad, though. He was very organized. He actually had a chronological pile of information that I was able to go through, and he was very organized in his own way. And then also he had some secure places in his house that he directed me to look for information. And with me knowing what to look for, I was able to find it very quickly. He was actually, I'm bragging on Tula's dad because he was very organized.
Well, that's good to hear. Let's take time because we're going to be running out of time soon here, Colleen. I just told people how. Thank you, Mark, for calling today and asking those really good questions. Let's talk about how you can help people. I just gave one instance. I know you will actually file the Medicaid application electronically, gather all the documents.
Yes.
Hit the submit button.
Yes.
Tell people how you do that and how they can reach you.
Well, when you call me or email me, I'll talk with you first to see if you're qualified. I do a review with you over the phone or a review with you via email to see what your qualifications are. That's usually an initial visit. And then I'll review with you what DCF is looking for. And then I will literally walk you through the process, because the whole point of this was when I was with hospice, I was noticing a lot of folks who should have been Medicaid already. Sadly, I was catching them at the end of the dying process, and it was difficult for them. And it was so much stress, and it didn't need to be. So there's a lot of elderly out there who could be Medicaid now. They really are qualified. They just don't know. So I want to give education on what is and is not qualified Medicaid, because there's also a lot of rumor out there that's no longer true because of what was in the past. So get yourself updated on the current. I want to give you education, and I want to walk you through the process, because it can be very daunting. And there's no reason not to have help with it. A lot of folks don't also have anybody. There's also the sandwich generation that are pulled between mom and dad and kids. And so if you need help to walk through that, I'm here for you. So,
all right. Colleen, again, you helped us. I thank you from the bottom of my heart.
You're welcome.
My mother's Medicaid application was approved, thanks in part to you. So I really do thank you for everything you did. Again, please tell people how they can reach you, because this is such important stuff.
You can reach me via phone, 904-724-6050, or you can reach me via email, diedenbachc@bellsouth.net.
All right, everybody. This has been Tula's Tips for Caregivers. I thank you for taking the time to listen this morning. I wish you all a blessed Saturday, and I'll be back next week.